Elvis Presley sighed, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. It was a beautiful sunny afternoon in Memphis, the kind that made you want to just kick back and enjoy the quiet. But quiet wasn't what he was getting. Instead, a steady drip, drip, drip echoed from the master bathroom. A relentless rhythm that was driving him slightly mad. He'd called his usual handyman, but the man was out of town. So reluctantly, his secretary had found a new plumber. Someone called Turner Plumbing. Elvis wasn't usually one to worry about such mundane things, but this leak had been going on for 2 days and it was starting to feel like a personal affront. He just wanted it fixed. He wanted to get back to his guitar, to the peaceful hum of Graceland, when things were just right. He walked into the large, opulent bathroom, the source of the irritating sound. Faucet on the sink was indeed leaking. A small but persistent stream. He tried tightening it himself, but Elvis was a performer, not a handyman. His fingers, used to intricate guitar chords and powerful microphone grips, felt clumsy around a wrench. A few minutes later, the doorbell chimed. Elvis took a deep breath, smoothing down his silk shirt. He might be the king, but he always believed in treating everyone with respect. He walked to the front door, passing through the grand foyer, its famous stained glass peacocks shimmering in the afternoon light. A young man stood on the porch, looking a little overwhelmed by the sheer size of Graceland. He was probably in his mid-20s, maybe a bit older. He wore faded work pants and a simple clean t-shirt that had Turner Plumbing embroidered on it, slightly crooked. He carried a heavy-looking toolbox. His hair was a little shaggy, falling over his eyes, and he had a guitar case slung over his shoulder, almost as if he'd forgotten it was there. "Mr. Presley?" the young man asked, his voice a little quiet, a little unsure. His eyes were wide, taking in everything. "Come on in. You must be Jesse from Turner Plumbing, right?" "Yes, sir. Jesse Turner," he replied, stepping inside. He seemed to take another moment to just breathe in the atmosphere of the famous mansion. Elvis noticed his gaze lingered for a moment on the piano in the living room, then drifted towards a guitar leaning against an armchair. "The leak's in the master bathroom upstairs," Elvis explained, leading the way. "It's just a faucet, but it's been driving me nuts." "Yes, sir, I understand," Jesse said, following him up the grand staircase. He walked carefully, almost reverently, clearly trying not to bump anything with his toolbox or the guitar case. Elvis found himself wondering why a plumber carried a guitar. Maybe he played in a band on weekends, or maybe he just liked music. Most people in Memphis did. As they reached the bathroom, Jesse set his toolbox down gently on the tiled floor. He knelt beside the sink, his movements methodical and efficient. He pulled out a few tools, his brow furrowed in concentration. Elvis leaned against the doorframe, watching him work. "So, Jesse," Elvis began, making conversation, "you play guitar?" He gestured subtly to the case. Jesse paused, looking up, a faint blush creeping onto his cheeks. "Oh yeah, I do. Just, you know, for fun. My main gig's plumbing." He gave a nervous laugh. "Hard to make a living with a guitar, you know." Elvis nodded slowly. He knew that better than anyone. He'd been there, scraping by, playing anywhere that would have him dreaming of something more. "It can be," he agreed, "but it can also be the greatest thing in the world." Jesse went back to work, his hands deftly disconnecting pipes, checking washers. He seemed to have a natural ease with the tools, a quiet confidence in his trade. As he worked, Elvis noticed something. Jesse wasn't just humming a tune. He was quietly, almost unconsciously, singing. It wasn't loud enough to make out the words, but the melody was distinct. It was a bluesy, soulful sound, a little rough around the edges, but undeniably real. It had a feeling to it, a lonesome quality, that tugged at something deep inside Elvis. He found himself listening more closely than he intended to, the quiet, almost unheard song. It wasn't something he recognized from the radio. It sounded original, heartfelt. The sound filled the large bathroom surprisingly despite its softness. It wasn't a powerful voice, not like his own, but it had a vulnerability that was compelling. Jesse was so engrossed in his plumbing work that he didn't seem to notice. Elvis was listening, He tightened a nut, then another, the humming continuing, a soft private concert. Elvis had heard a million singers in his life, from the greatest legends to aspiring unknowns. There was something about Jesse's quiet melodies sung while fixing a leaky faucet that really caught his ear. It was raw, honest, and completely unpolished. A thought sparked in Elvis's mind, a little flicker of an idea. It wasn't about the plumbing anymore, it was about that voice. He wondered what Jesse sounded like when he wasn't trying to fix a leak. He wondered what he could do with a little encouragement, a little push. "Almost got it, Mr. Presley," Jesse said, finally breaking his concentration from the singing and the work. He turned the water on slowly. No drip. He smiled, a genuine relieved smile. "There we go. Should be good as new, Jesse," Elvis said, his voice calm, but with a new edge of curiosity. "That song you were humming, was that your own?" Jesse froze, his face flushing deep red. He looked mortified, as if he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't have been. Yeah, sorry, sir, sometimes I do that without thinking. It's just a little something I've been working on." He quickly wiped his hands on a rag, looking embarrassed. Elvis just smiled. "Don't apologize, son. It was good, really good." He paused, looking directly at Jesse, a flicker of something in his eyes. It wasn't pity. Not exactly. It was more like recognition. You got a real feel for it, a real sound. Jesse's eyes widened. He clearly hadn't expected such a compliment from someone like Elvis Presley. He just mumbled a "thank you, sir," and started packing up his tools, clearly eager to finish up and leave. But Elvis wasn't done. That faint melody had stayed with him, resonating. He thought about the long journey he'd taken, the lucky breaks, the people who'd believed in him. He looked at Jesse, a humble plumber with a hidden voice, and felt a strange connection. King of rock and roll had a crazy idea, forming one that went far beyond fixing a leaky faucet. Jesse Turner quickly finished packing his tools, his mind racing. He couldn't believe Elvis Presley had complimented his singing. It was just a little hum, a habit he'd picked up, something he did to pass the time or to keep his nerves steady when he was working. He usually made sure no one was around when he did it. Being caught by Elvis Presley, of all people, was almost too much. He stood up, toolbox in hand, feeling awkward. "So, that'll be $55, Mr. Presley," he stammered, trying to sound professional and not like a starstruck kid. He pulled out a small, crumpled invoice pad from his back pocket. Elvis, however, didn't seem to be thinking about money. He was still watching Jesse, a thoughtful look on his face. $55. "Right," he said, but his eyes were on the guitar case. "You really wrote that song?" Jesse nodded suddenly, feeling a surge of something, pride maybe mixed with deep embarrassment. "Yeah, I did. I got a bunch of them just for myself, or sometimes I play them at open mic nights in town if I get the nerve." He shrugged, trying to downplay it. The idea of anyone, let alone Elvis, really caring about his amateur songs felt unreal. "Open mic nights, huh?" Elvis mused. "That's how a lot of us start out, me too, in fact. Used to play all sorts of little joints, anywhere they'd let me stand on a stage." Chuckled, a deep, warm sound that filled the spacious bathroom. Long time ago now. Jesse couldn't help but stare. Here he was standing in Elvis Presley's bathroom, and Elvis was talking to him, like they were just two regular guys. It was Samuel. Glanced around the opulent room, the gleaming fixtures, the thick carpets. It was so far removed from his small, cluttered apartment, where he wrote his songs late at night, trying not to wake his neighbors. "You know," Elvis continued, stepping a little closer, his voice dropping slightly, "that song of yours, it had a real feel to it. An honesty, not many singers have that anymore, but yours, it sounded real." Jesse's heart gave a little flutter. Real? From Elvis? This wasn't just a polite compliment. This sounded genuine. "Thank you, Mr. Presley," he managed, feeling his cheeks grow warm again. That means a lot. It's just Elvis' son," Elvis corrected gently. And I mean it. I hear a lot of music. I've heard the best and I've heard the worst. Yours had something, a spark. He paused, then looked at the guitar case again. What kind of music do you usually play? Oh, it's mostly blues. Some folk, a little country, kind of a mix, I guess, Jesse explained. It's what I grew up listening to, my granddaddy. He played old blues tunes on his acoustic guitar. Taught me a few chords when I was just a little kid. Blues, folk, country? Elvis repeated, a thoughtful hum in his voice. Memphis music. Good roots. He looked at Jesse, a serious expression on his face now. You ever thought about doing more with it? Really trying to make a go of it? Jesse gave a small, wry laugh. Mr. Presley, I mean, Elvis, I think about it every single day, every time I pick up this wrench. I think about it, but it's just a dream. You know, I got bills to pay. Plumbing pays the bills. He gestured vaguely with his hand, indicating his work uniform. I don't have connections. I don't have money for studios, for promotion. It's just not practical. Elvis listened carefully, his head tilted. He understood. He remembered those same fears, those same practical worries from his own early days. The struggle was real. He also saw the flicker of passion in Jesse's eyes, even as he spoke about practicality. The dream wasn't dead, not yet. It was just buried under layers of necessity. Well, Elvis said, sometimes a dream just needs a little push, a little help. He walked over to a small antique table and picked up his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. He handed it to Jesse. Here you go. Keep the change. Consider it a tip. Jesse's eyes widened at the sight of the $100 bill. That was almost double his usual rate. Oh no, Elvis, that's too much, he protested, trying to hand it back. 55 is fine. No, son, Elvis insisted, pushing the money back into Jesse's hand. It's not just for the plumbing, it's for the music. He paused, looking intently at Jesse. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that $100 and I want you to buy your stuff, and then I want you to think about what I said, about that sound you got. Jesse stared at the money, then at Elvis. He didn't know what to say. His mind was swirling. $100 and a vague instruction to think about it. Elvis smiled, seeing the confusion in Jesse's eyes. He knew he had to be more direct. Tell you what, he said, leaning against the sink, his voice low and serious. I'm not saying it's easy. It's never easy. But you got talent, Jesse. I heard it, and I've got a lot of friends in this business, people who know talent. When they hear it, Jesse's jaw dropped. Was Elvis Presley, the king, actually suggesting, no, it couldn't be? How about this? Elvis continued, seeing Jesse's disbelief. You go home. You think about what you really want. And if you're serious about trying to make a go of this music thing, if you want to see if that dream of yours has got any legs, you call my secretary. She'll set something up. He pulled a small card from his pocket, Graceland's official contact information. This isn't a joke, Jesse. I don't make offers like this lightly, but I believe in second chances, and I believe in talent. You got it. Now, it's up to you what you do with it. Jesse stood there speechless, the $100 bill and the contact card clutched in his hand. He looked at the card, then at Elvis, then back at the card. It wasn't just a tip, it was an invitation. A crazy, impossible invitation. He, Jesse Turner, the plumber, had just been offered a chance by Elvis Presley. His heart pounded in his chest, a new exciting rhythm that had nothing to do with dripping faucets. He swallowed hard. I don't know what to say, Elvis. Don't say anything now, son, Elvis said, a warm, encouraging smile on his face. Just think on it. And if you decide to take the plunge, you know who to call. He clapped Jesse gently on the shoulder. Now, if you don't mind, I got a busy day ahead. It was good meeting you, Jesse. Jesse nodded, still in a daze. You too, Elvis? Thank you for everything. He turned and slowly walked out of the bathroom, down the grand staircase and out the front door, the $100 bill and the card feeling like the heaviest things he'd ever carried. The sun outside seemed brighter, the air more alive. He had arrived as a plumber, but he was leaving with a spark of hope ignited by the king himself. Jesse walked out of Graceland feeling like he was floating. The sun was indeed brighter, the air sweeter. The whole world seemed to hum with a new, exciting energy. He got into his old pickup truck, the Turner Plumbing logo, peeling slightly on the side, and just sat there for a long moment, clutching the $100 bill and the Graceland contact card. He looked at the card. It felt warm in his hand, almost vibrating with possibility. It had Elvis's personal office number on it, along with the name Priscilla Parker, executive assistant. This wasn't some joke. This was real. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had offered him a plumber a chance. His mind replayed every moment of the conversation. Elvis had said his music had a real feel, an honesty, a spark. These were words Jesse had only dreamed of hearing, let alone from someone who truly knew music, someone who had shaped it. For so long, his music had been a private solace, a quiet rebellion against the practical demands of life. He loved plumbing. He was good at it, but it wasn't his soul's true calling. He thought about the pipe dream he'd mentioned. Was it possible that it wasn't a pipe dream after all? Was this his shot? The chance of a lifetime? He started to truck and drove, but his usual route home felt different. The familiar streets of Memphis seemed to glow with a new light. Past Sun's studio, where Elvis himself had recorded his first songs, and a shiver ran down his spine. It felt like fate. When he finally pulled into his apartment parking lot, he didn't go inside right away. He just sat in his truck, staring at the card. Doubt began to creep in, cold and unsettling. What if he wasn't good enough? What if Elvis was just being kind? What if he made a fool of himself? His hands were calloused from wrenches, not from strumming an electric guitar on a stage. He thought about his family. His mom always told him to follow his dreams, but his dad, God rest his soul, had always said, "A man needs a trade, son. Something steady." Plumbing was steady. Music was a gamble. A huge gamble. He took a deep breath, but then he remembered the look in Elvis's eyes. Not pity, but genuine interest. And the way Elvis had talked about his own beginnings, the struggle, the open mic nights. Elvis had been there, he understood. Jesse decided he couldn't let fear hold him back. This wasn't just a fantasy. It was a concrete offer. He had to be brave, just like he imagined Elvis had been brave when he first stepped into Sun's studio all those years ago. He finally went inside, put his toolbox away, and immediately went for his guitar. It was an old acoustic, scratched and worn, but it felt like an extension of himself. He sat down on his worn couch, the Graceland card on the coffee table beside him. He carefully took the $100 bill and placed it underneath the card, like a precious talisman. Elvis had said to buy strings, but this money felt too significant for just that. It was the symbol of the offer. He started playing. He played the song he'd been humming in Elvis's bathroom, and then another and another. Poured all his mixed emotions into the music, the fear, the excitement, the uncertainty, the hope. He played until his fingers ached and his voice felt raw. The next morning he woke up with a clearer head. The offer still seemed been evil, but the fear had lessened, replaced by a quiet determination. He knew what he had to do. He called Priscilla Parker at Graceland. His hand trembled as he dialed the number. Graceland, Priscilla speaking. A smooth, professional voice answered. Yes, hi, my name is Jesse Turner," he stammered. "I was here yesterday, Elvis. Asked me to call." There was a slight pause on the other end. Then Priscilla's voice became warmer. He hung up the phone, feeling a jolt of adrenaline. This was it, no turning back now. He spent the rest of the morning practicing, polishing his songs, trying to make them sound as good as possible. He even showered, shaved, and put on his best, but still humble clothes, clean jeans, a button-up shirt, and his only good pair of boots. He wanted to make a good impression. He also made sure to bring his guitar, the old acoustic, carefully placed in its worn case. At 1:50 p.m., Jesse was back at the gates of Graceland, his stomach churning with nerves. This time he was expected. A security guard nodded him through, and he drove up the long, winding driveway, parked and walked towards the mansion. His guitar case feeling heavier than ever, Priscilla Parker met him at the door. She was a kind-looking woman, impeccably dressed. "Mr. Turner, welcome back. Elvis is in the living room. Come this way." She led him into the famous living room, sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. Elvis was sitting on one of the large sofas, relaxed, but with an expectant look on his face. He stood up as Jesse entered, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Jesse, good to see you, son," Elvis said, extending a hand. "Glad you decided to come back." "Elvis," Jesse said, shaking his hand, his voice a little shaky. "Thank you for this, for everything. Sit down, sit down." Elvis gestured to a nearby armchair. "You brought your guitar." "Yes, sir," Jesse said, placing the case gently on the floor beside him. Good, Elvis nodded. He leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. "So, you thought about it." Jesse took a deep breath. "I did. And I want to take you up on your offer, Elvis. If it's real, if you really think I have something." Elvis's smile widened. "It's real, Jesse. I wouldn't waste my time or yours if I didn't think so. I heard something in your voice, in that little tune you're humming. Something honest, and honest music is rare these days. So tell me, what kind of songs do you write? What do they mean to you?" This wasn't just a whim for Elvis. He genuinely seemed interested. He began to talk slowly at first, then with more confidence. About his songs, his inspirations, the stories behind his lyrics. He talked about growing up in Memphis, the blues clubs, the gospel churches, the rhythm of the city. Elvis listened, occasionally nodding, his gaze steady and encouraging. After a while, Elvis gestured to the guitar. "Well, don't just talk about it, son. Show me. Play me that song you were humming yesterday, or any song that means something to you. I want to hear it, really hear it." Jesse's heart pounded again. This was the moment, the true audition. Carefully unlatched his guitar case, pulled out his old acoustic, and took another deep breath. This was it. This was the offer, loud and clear. Jesse's hands trembled slightly. As he tuned his guitar, the silence in the grand Graceland living room was thick, broken only by the soft scrape of his fingers on the strings. Elvis sat across from him, watching patiently. A look of calm expectation on his face. Jesse felt the immense pressure of the moment. This wasn't just another open muck night. This was for the king. Closed his eyes for a second, trying to calm his racing heart. He imagined he was back in his small apartment, alone with his music, just playing for himself. He took a deep breath, and then, with a nervous strum, he started. He chose the song he'd been humming in the bathroom, a bluesy ballad about lost love and long roads. His voice, usually quiet and unassuming, found a new strength as he sang. It wasn't a powerhouse voice like Elvis's, but it was rich with emotion, raw and heartfelt. Every note, every word came from a place of genuine experience. He poured his soul into the old wooden guitar, letting the melody and the lyrics tell his story. The acoustics of the living room were surprisingly good, making his voice resonate softly. He focused on the feeling of the song, on the subtle bends of the notes, the quiet ache in the lyrics. He forgot about Elvis for a moment, forgot about Graceland, forgot about being a plumber. He was just a musician, sharing his truth. When the last chord faded, Jesse slowly opened his eyes. He saw Elvis leaning forward slightly, his expression unreadable. Jesse waited, holding his breath, the silence in the room stretching out. Then Elvis nodded slowly. "Jesse," he said, his voice soft. That was beautiful, son. Truly beautiful." A wave of relief washed over Jesse, so powerful it almost made him lightheaded. He let out a shaky breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Your voice," Elvis continued, It's not like anything else on the radio right now. It's got soul, and those lyrics, they hit you right here." He tapped his chest. "You really feel what you're singing. That's what matters." Jesse mumbled, "Thank you," feeling a blush creep up his neck. Praise from Elvis felt like sunshine after a long, cold winter. "You said you have more songs?" Elvis asked. "Yes, sir. A few dozen, maybe," Jesse replied, feeling a surge of confidence. "I write almost every night." "Play another one," Elvis encouraged. "Play something that shows me a different side, something with a little more punch, maybe." Jesse thought for a moment, then launched into a more upbeat, roots rock tune, still with that bluesy undercurrent. The song was about chasing a dream, about the struggle and the hope. As he played, he found himself relaxing more. The initial nervousness began to fade, replaced by the pure joy of making music, especially for such an appreciative audience. Elvis tacked his foot along to the rhythm, a small smile playing on his lips. When Jesse finished the second song, Elvis clapped a slow, deliberate applause. "See, I told you you got it, Jesse. You got that spark." He paused, then leaned forward. "Now, let's talk about that spark and what we can do with it." Jesse put his guitar down carefully. What do you mean, Elvis?" "I mean, Jesse, that I want to help you," Elvis said, his gaze serious. "I've been lucky in my life. God's been good to me. And I believe when you've been given a lot, you got a responsibility to help others. You got the talent. You just need the right doors open for you." He stood up and walked over to the grand piano, running his fingers lightly over the keys. "I want to introduce you to some people who can really make a difference. Producers, songwriters, musicians, folks who can help you polish that sound, get it recorded, get it heard." Jesse felt his heart pounding again, but this time it was with excitement, not fear. "You'd really do that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I wouldn't offer if I wasn't serious," Elvis said, turning to face him. "This business is tough, Jesse. It's not all bright lights and sold-out shows. There'll be long hours, disappointments, people who try to take advantage. But there's also the pure magic of creating. Something of sharing your music with the world. And from what I heard just now, off is it, Jesse. So, here's the deal. I'll make the calls. I'll set you up with the best people I know. They'll teach you the ropes of the studio, the stage. But you gotta be willing to work hard. You gotta listen, learn, and stay true to that honest voice you got." Jesse nodded, tears pricking at his eyes. "I will, Elvis. I promise. I'll work harder than I've ever worked in my life." "Good," Elvis said, a genuine warmth in his smile. "That's what I want to hear. No guarantees in this business, Jesse, except that hard work pays off, and a little faith." He paused, then added, "Oh, and one more thing, that plumbing gig." Jesse looked at him confused. "Yeah? Don't quit it just yet," Elvis chuckled. "You might need it for a while. This ain't an overnight thing. It's a journey, but with that talent you got, and a bit of a push, I reckon it's a journey worth taking." Jesse couldn't stop grinning. It was overwhelming, unbelievable. He was about to embark on the wildest adventure of his life, all because of a leaky faucet and the king's incredibly generous heart. He had come to Graceland a plumber, and he was leaving as a musician with a dream suddenly within reach. The next few days were a blur for Jesse. True to his word, Elvis wasted no time. "Priscilla Parker," called Jesse first thing the following morning with a dizzying schedule. His first meeting was with a renowned Nashville producer named Ray Peterson, a man known for his ability to nurture raw talent. Jesse arrived at Ray's Memphis office, an unassuming building tucked away downtown, feeling a mix of excitement and terror. Ray Peterson was a gruff but kind man with sharp, intelligent eyes. He listened intently as Jesse played a few songs, nodding occasionally, making notes. "You got something, kid," Ray said, leaning back in his chair when Jesse finished. Elvis was right. "It's got that old-school soul, but with a fresh feel. We can work with this." He then launched into a detailed plan. Vocal coaching, songwriting sessions, and most importantly, studio time. We'll start slow, get you comfortable, find your core sound. No rush, but no dawdling either. Next, Jesse met with a vocal coach, a patient woman named Eleanor Vance, who helped him understand his vocal range, breath control, and how to protect his voice. She taught him exercises that felt strange at first, but quickly began to strengthen his singing. Jesse had always just sung. Now he was learning the craft. He also spent hours with an experienced noker, an older gentleman named Arthur Vance, Eleanor's husband, it turned out, who helped him refine his lyrics, structure his melodies, and understand the nuances of crafting a song that would resonate with a wider audience. Arthur didn't try to change Jesse's unique style, but rather helped him polish it, making his heartfelt stories even more powerful. Elvis, despite his own demanding schedule, stayed connected, called Jesse every few days, checking in, offering encouragement, and sometimes just sharing stories from his own early days. "Don't get discouraged if a session doesn't go right, Jesse," he'd say. "We all have bad days. Just pick yourself up and keep going. It's about persistence." One afternoon, Elvis invited Jesse back to Graceland. This time it wasn't for an audition. Elvis just wanted to talk music. He showed Jesse his extensive record collection, pulling out old blues and gospel albums, telling stories about the artists who had inspired him. He even played some of his own early recordings, explaining how they tried different sounds, different arrangements. "It's a journey of discovery, Jesse," Elvis told him, holding an old Bymong record. "You gotta find what makes you. You don't try to be anyone else. There's only one Elvis, and there's only one Jesse Turner, and that's your power." Jesse soaked it all in. He was learning not just about music, production, but about the heart and soul of being an artist. He realized that Elvis wasn't just offering him a leg up. He was offering mentorship, a guiding hand in a world that could be incredibly complex and overwhelming life. For Jesse became a dizzying whirlwind. His days were split between plumbing jobs. He still had to pay the bills, as Elvis advised, and his new musical apprenticeship. He'd wake up early, do a few plumbing calls, then rush off to a vocal lesson or a songwriting session or a meeting with Ray. Evenings were spent practicing, writing new material, and absorbing everything he'd learned. He was tired, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind that came from pursuing something he truly loved. One day, Ray Peterson surprised him. "Jesse," he said, after a particularly productive songwriting session, "I think you're ready. We're going to book some studio. We're going to cut a demo." Jesse's jaw dropped. A demo, real studio time. He'd imagined this day, but it felt real. "Are you serious, Ray?" Ray grinned. "Serious as a heart attack. Elvis thinks you're ready. We've got a few songs picked out, the ones that really show off your voice and your style. We'll get some session musicians and the best in Memphis. It's time to make some noise." The news thrilled Jesse beyond words. "That's fantastic, son. I knew you had it in you," Elvis boomed over the phone. "Just remember what I told you. Be yourself, sing from the heart, and don't be afraid to try new things in the studio. It's a magical place." The day of the studio session arrived and Jesse was a bundle of nerves. He walked into the state-of-the-art recording studio. A maze of soundboards, microphones, and soundproofed rooms, feeling completely out of his element. Ray Peterson was there along with a few skilled session musicians, a bassist, a drummer, and a keyboardist. They were professionals, veterans of countless recording sessions, and Jesse felt like a small fish in a very big pond. "All right, Jesse," Ray said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Let's start with Long Road Home. Just you and your acoustic. For the first take, let's capture that raw emotion." Jesse nodded, walked into the vocal booth, and put on the headphones. He could hear Ray's voice through the intercom. "Just relax, Jesse. Take your time. It's just you and the music." Took a deep breath, looked at his old guitar, and then closed his eyes. He thought of Elvis's words, "Sing from the heart." He thought of the leaky faucet that started it all. And then he began to play and sing. The first notes were a little shaky, but as he continued, the music began to flow strong and true. He forgot about the microphones, the engineers, the famous studio. He was just Jesse singing his song. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Ray's voice crackled through his headphones. "Jesse, that was beautiful. Really beautiful. One more time just like that. But this time, let's see if we can get it even better." Jesse smiled. He was doing it. He was finally, truly making his music. The journey had begun. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months filled with long recording sessions. He learned the rhythm of studio work. Endless takes, the delicate balance of different instruments. The magic of mixing and mastering. Ray Peterson, his producer, was a firm but fair mentor, pushing Jesse to find the best in himself, to push beyond what he thought were his limits. "One more time, Jesse, give me more grit on that chorus." Ray would shout from the control room, his voice echoing through Jesse's headphones. Or that note felt a little forced. Let it breathe. Let it tell its story. Jesse would sometimes get frustrated. His voice would grow tired, his fingers would ache from playing. There were moments of doubt, dark thoughts creeping in, when a take just wouldn't sound right, or when he felt he wasn't living up to the incredible opportunity he'd been given. He'd think maybe I should just stick to plumbing. At least I'm good at that. But then he'd remember Elvis's words, "Don't get discouraged. It's about persistence." And he'd pick up his guitar again, take another deep breath and try again. Eleanor Vance, his vocal coach, was a constant source of calm and wisdom. She taught him how to warm up his voice properly, how to sustain notes, and how to add subtle inflections that gave his singing more depth. "Your voice is like an instrument, Jesse," she'd say softly. "You have to take care of it, respect it, and understand its nuances." Arthur Vance, the toker, helped him refine his lyrics even further. They'd sit for hours, sometimes in the studio lounge, sometimes over coffee, at a quiet diner, dissecting lines, searching for the perfect word, the most able phrase. Arthur helped Jesse understand how to tell a story with his music, how to paint a vivid picture in the listener's mind. Elvis himself remained a quiet, powerful presence. He would call just to check in, never demanding, always encouraging. Sometimes he'd even drop by the studio unannounced, sitting in the control room, listening intently as Jesse sang. He never interrupted, never gave direct instructions to Ray. He would just observe, offering a thumbs up or a warm smile to Jesse through the glass. His presence alone was a massive confidence booster. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Jesse felt utterly defeated. He just couldn't nail a difficult vocal harmony. Ray had finally called it a night, sensing Jesse's frustration. Jesse was packing up his guitar when Elvis appeared in the doorway of the studio. "Long day, son?" Elvis asked, his voice soft. Jesse nodded, slumping into a chair. "Yeah, Elvis. I just can't seem to get this one right, feeling like I'm hitting a wall." Elvis walked in and sat beside him. "Happens to the best of us, Jesse, believe me. There were days I thought I'd never hit another note right. Days I wanted to just walk away." He paused, a faraway look in his eyes. "But then you remember why you started? You remember that feeling when the music's just right? When it flows through you like a river." He looked at Jesse, his gaze kind, but firm. "You got something special, Jesse, that honesty. Don't let a tough session make you forget that. This business, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There are always going to be walls. The trick is figuring out how to climb over them, or sometimes how to just rest and come back stronger the next day." Elvis then shared a story about a time early in his career when he struggled with a particular song, feeling like he couldn't quite connect with the lyrics. He talked about how he finally found the key by just taking a break, clearing his head, and then coming back to it with a fresh perspective. "Sometimes," Elvis concluded, "you just gotta step away, let the song breathe, and then tackle it with new ears." Jesse listened. Really listened. Elvis wasn't just a legend. He was a human being who understood the struggles of an artist. His words were comforting, A reminder that setbacks were part of the journey, not the end of it. "Thanks, Elvis," Jesse said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "I needed to hear that." "Anytime, son," Elvis replied, standing up. "Now go home, get some rest, and come back tomorrow ready to knock that wall down." The next day, Jesse walked into the studio with a fresh mind. He tried the song again, focusing on Elvis's advice about letting it breathe, about connecting with the emotion. This time something clicked. The harmony, which had seemed impossible the night before, flowed smoothly, resonating perfectly. Ray in the control room smiled and gave a rare, enthusiastic thumbs. "Up! That's it, Jesse!" Ray exclaimed. "That's the take. Perfect." And he was doing it thanks to the unwavering support of the king. He realized that this journey wasn't just about making music. It was about discovering his own resilience, his own strength. Plumbing jobs still came in a steady reminder of his old life, but his focus was now firmly on the music. The dream was becoming more real, with every note, every session, every encouraging word from Elvis. Weeks turned into months, and the demo recording slowly transformed into a polished album. Jesse and Ray worked tirelessly, meticulously crafting each song. They experimented with different arrangements, adding a subtle gospel choir here, a mournful steel guitar. They're always ensuring the instruments served Jesse's voice and the story of his lyrics. Jesse started to see the magic of the studio, how layers of sound could be built up to create something truly grand. He watched in awe as the session musicians, masters of their craft, brought his simple melodies to life with their incredible skill. He learned to trust Ray's vision even when it pushed him outside his comfort zone. The album, tentatively titled Long Road Home, was a collection of Jesse's original songs. A mix of blues, folk, and country rock, all infused with his unique soulful voice. It was raw, honest, and distinctly Jesse Turner. When the final mixes were done, Ray invited Elvis to the studio for a private listening session. Jesse was a nervous wreck. This was the moment of truth. Would Elvis still hear that spark he spoke of? Would he be proud of what Jesse had created? Elvis arrived, dressed casually but with an air of anticipation. He sat in the large plush chair in the control room, headphones on, as Ray dimmed the lights and pressed play. The first notes of Long Road Home filled the room. Jesse watched Elvis's face intently. Elvis closed his eyes for a moment, then leaned back, swaying slightly with the rhythm. A small smile played on his lips as Jesse's voice came in strong and clear. He tapped his foot, occasionally nodding along. As the album played through song after song, Jesse felt a mix of relief and growing excitement. He could see that Elvis was truly listening, truly appreciating the music. He was lost in it. When the last note faded and the room fell silent, Elvis slowly took off his headphones. He looked at Ray, then at Jesse, his eyes shining. "Ray," he said, his voice quiet, "you did good, real good." Then he turned to Jesse, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Jesse, son, I knew it. I knew you had it in you. This is phenomenal. It's real, honest music. It's you." Jesse felt a lump in his throat. This praise from Elvis was the greatest reward he could imagine. "Thank you, Elvis," he managed, his voice thick with emotion. "No," Jesse, Elvis corrected, standing up and walking over to him. "Thank you for sticking with it, for putting your heart and soul into this. This is going to resonate with people, I promise you." He clapped Jesse on the shoulder. "This isn't just a demo anymore, Ray. This is an album. We need to get this out there." Ray nodded. "That's the plan, Elvis. We've already got some labels interested after hearing this. I think we'll have our pick." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings with record labels. Jesse, often accompanied by Ray, sat in conference rooms, playing his music, telling his story. The labels were impressed. They saw the potential, the raw talent, and the genuine passion in his music. And the subtle backing of Elvis Presley, though never explicitly stated, undoubtedly opened doors faster than they would have for an unknown plumber. Finally, after much deliberation, Jesse signed with a small, independent label that understood his unique style and promised him creative control. They believed in his authenticity rather than trying to mold him into something he wasn't. It felt right. The label immediately started planning the release of Long Road Home. They chose a single, the title track, to send to radio stations. Jesse also began to get offers for small gigs, opening for established artists in local venues around Memphis. His first official gig was at a popular blues club on Beale Street, a legendary spot where so many musical journeys had begun. Jesse felt a surge of nerves and excitement. He still did plumbing jobs during the day, but now his evenings were increasingly filled with music. He bought himself a new, better acoustic guitar with some of the advance money from his record deal, a beautiful instrument that sang in his hands. On the night of his first show, Jesse was a bundle of nerves. He paced his old guitar case by his feet. He could hear the low hum of the crowd, the clinking of glasses. His manager, a young woman named Brenda who worked for the label, came to find him. "Almost time, Jesse," she said, sensing his anxiety. "You got this. Just go out there and be you." Suddenly, there was a quiet knock on the dressing room door. Jesse looked up, surprised. Brenda opened it. Standing there, dressed simply but impeccably, was Elvis. "Elvis!" Jesse exclaimed, completely shocked. "Couldn't miss your debut, son, could I? Wanted to see you shine." He looked at Jesse, his eyes full of pride. "You nervous?" Jesse nodded, suddenly feeling like a small child again. "Terrified, honest." "Good," Elvis chuckled. "Means you care. Just remember what we talked about this stage. It's yours. Tell your story. Sing from the heart. You got this, Jesse." He clasped Jesse's shoulder. "I won't be out front. Don't want to steal your thunder, but I'll be listening. Make me proud, son." With that, Elvis gave him a final reassuring nod and slipped away. Jesse stared at the empty doorway, a new surge of confidence washing over him. Elvis was here. He believed in him. Brenda gave him the signal. 5 minutes, Jesse." Jesse took a deep breath, picked up his new guitar, and walked towards the stage. The lights were bright, the crowd a blur, but he held his head high. He was Jesse Turner, musician, and he was ready to sing his heart out. The stage lights felt incredibly bright, almost blinding. Jesse walked out onto the small stage at the Beale Street Blues Club, his new acoustic guitar clutched in his hands. The crowd was a blur of faces, the murmur of conversation still lingering. He could feel his heart hammering against his ribs. This wasn't just an open mic. This was his debut. He took a deep breath, adjusted the microphone, and then looked out at the audience. Somewhere in that crowd, hidden from view, was Elvis. That thought gave him a strange mix of renewed nerves and a powerful surge of determination. He couldn't let the king down. "Good evening, everyone." Jesse's voice was a little shaky at first, but it gained strength. "My name is Jesse Turner. Thanks for being here tonight." A smattering of polite applause. He felt a smile touch his lips. "I'm going to play some songs for you. Some of them are on my new album, Long Road Home, which will be out soon." He introduced his first song, Memphis Rain, a soulful blues tune about growing up in the city he loved. As his fingers found the familiar chords, the music began to flow, and something shifted inside him. The nervousness began to recede, replaced by the pure joy of performing, of sharing his music. His voice, clear and honest, filled the small club. The session musicians who had played on his album were with him tonight, the bassist, drummer, and keyboardist. They were incredible, providing a solid, soulful foundation for his acoustic guitar and vocals. They had rehearsed tirelessly, and it showed the band was tight. The sound rich and full as he sang. He looked around. He saw heads nodding, people tapping their feet, a few even humming along to the chorus. He felt a connection with the audience, a shared understanding through the music. This was what Elvis had talked about, making music that resonated, that touched people's heart. He played Long Road Home, the title track of his album, a song that spoke of perseverance and finding one's way. could feel the emotion pouring out of him, raw and unpolished, just as Elvis had first heard it in his bathroom. The crowd grew quieter, listening intently to the story his lyrics told. When he finished the song, the applause was louder, this time more enthusiastic. A few whistles and shouts of, "Yeah, Jesse," came from the back. A genuine warmth spread through him. This felt right. This felt like home. Jesse played for almost an hour, sharing his songs, telling the stories behind them. He talked about his journey, about being a plumber who dreamed of music. He didn't mention Elvis directly. He knew Elvis wouldn't want the attention on himself. But he spoke of a kind stranger who had given him a chance, who had believed in him when no one else had. "I still have my plumbing tools in my truck, folks," he chuckled, "just in case. But tonight I get to do what I truly love, and that's thanks to someone who saw a little spark in a very unexpected place." The crowd cheered, appreciating his humble honesty. He finished his set with an upbeat foot-stomping number that got everyone clapping along by the end. The club was buzzing with excitement. People were standing, applauding, whistling. It was a roar of appreciation that Jesse had only ever dreamed of. He took a bow, feeling overwhelmed and incredibly grateful. He shook hands with his bandmates, then walked off stage, his heart still thumping. Brenda, his manager, met him back, her face beaming. "Jesse, that was incredible. They loved you," she exclaimed, giving him a hug. "I haven't heard a reaction like that from an opening act in a long time." Jesse just grinned, still high on the adrenaline of the performance. Did you see Elvis?" Brenda shook her head. "No, but I know he was here. He left a message with the bouncer. Just a simple, 'Tell Jesse he made me proud, and he left you this.'" She handed Jesse a small folded piece of paper. It was a simple note written in Elvis's familiar, flowing hand. "Jesse, you shone like the brightest star tonight. This is just the beginning." A tear pricked at Jesse's eye. Elvis had seen him. He had truly seen him, and he was proud. That meant more than any roar of applause. And he was proud. It was the confirmation that he was on the right path, doing what he was meant to do. Back in his small dressing room, Jesse picked up his phone. He dialed his mom. "Mom, it's me, the show. It was amazing. It was really amazing." He could hear the joy in his own voice, a joy he hadn't known in a long, long time. I think this might actually happen." His mom's voice on the other end was full of emotion. "Oh, Jesse, I knew it. I always knew you had it in you. Your dad would be so proud." Jesse closed his eyes, a grateful smile on his face. He remembered the greasy wrench, the leaky faucet, the faint melody. He remembered Elvis's kind eyes and generous offer. And now, here he was a musician, living his dream. The debut was just the first step on a much longer journey. But Jesse felt ready. He had the music, he had the support, and he had the King's quiet approval. The night of Jesse's debut on Beale Street was indeed just the beginning. The word spread quickly. Local radio stations, already having received copies of Long Road Home from his label, started playing Memphis Rain. The song's raw honesty and soulful sound immediately resonated with listeners. Calls poured in, requesting the song, and it quickly became a local hit. Encouraged by the positive reception, the label pushed for wider distribution. Within weeks, Memphis Rain started getting airplay on regional radio stations across the South. Jesse found himself doing interviews, small acoustic performances at radio stations, and even a few television appearances on local news channels. It was a whirlwind far removed from the quiet life of a plumber. His plumbing work dwindled naturally. He simply didn't have the time anymore. He finally made the bittersweet decision to officially step away from Turner Plumbing, selling his old truck to his cousin, who was just starting out in the trade. It was a big step, a definitive leap into the unknown, but it felt right. Long Road Home was officially released, and the album slowly but surely began to climb the charts. Critics praised Jesse's authentic voice and songwriting, calling him a refreshing new sound in the music scene. He was hailed as a natural talent, a throwback to the days when music was made from the heart, not just for the charts. Jesse started touring first as an opening act for bigger names, then headlining smaller venues himself. He played in packed clubs at outdoor festivals and even in some of the grand old theaters he'd only ever dreamed of seeing from the audience. Each show was a new experience, a new connection with people who loved his music. Life on the road was exciting but also demanding. Long bus rides, endless sound checks, late nights and early mornings. But Jesse thrived on it. He loved being on stage, seeing the faces in the crowd, feeling the energy they gave back. He loved seeing his songs born in his quiet apartment, now sung back to him by hundreds of people. Elvis continued to be a silent guardian angel. He never directly intervened, letting Jesse find his own way, but his influence was undeniable. When Jesse's album was first released, a personal review from a Memphis legend appeared in a prominent music magazine, praising Jesse Turner's raw, undeniable talent and his deeply honest songwriting. While Elvis wasn't named, everyone in the industry knew who it was. That small gesture gave Jesse's album an immediate boost one day. Jesse got a call from his manager, Brenda. "Jesse, you're not going to believe this. You've been nominated for a Memphis Music Award. Best New Artist and Song of the Year for Memphis Rain." Jesse was speechless. An award nomination? It was beyond anything. He wanted to call him, to thank him again, to tell him how much this all meant. But he knew Elvis valued his privacy, and he respected that. The awards ceremony was a glittering affair filled with music, industry, heavyweights, and famous artists. Jesse, dressed in a new suit, felt a little out of place, but incredibly proud. He sat at a table with Ray, Eleanor, and Arthur, his mentor and friends. When Memphis Rain was announced as the winner for Song of the Year, Jesse's heart leaped. He walked up to the stage, the spotlight blinding him once again, but this time with joy. He held the trophy in his hand, a heavy, shining symbol of his incredible journey. At the microphone, he looked out at the cheering crowd. I can't believe this," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "This song, this album, this entire journey, it all started with a leaky faucet." A ripple of laughter went through the audience. "Seriously, I was a plumber and a struggling musician with a dream that felt impossible." He paused, taking a deep breath. But then, a very generous man, a true legend of music, saw something in me. He took a chance. He gave me a push, mentorship, and the belief that my voice mattered. He taught me that honesty in music is everything. This award, this career, to stay it be. He had paid tribute to the man who changed his life without revealing his identity, honoring his wish for discretion. After the ceremony, as Jesse was leaving, he noticed a familiar figure in the shadows near an exit, a large hat pulled low. It was Elvis. Caught Jesse's eye, gave him a subtle, proud nod, and then with a small wave, disappeared into the night. Jesse smiled, his heart full. The king had seen him shine. He had made him proud. And the plumbing kid from Memphis was now a rising star, all because of an extraordinary act of kindness. 2 years had passed since Jesse Turner released Long Road Home. His career had skyrocketed. He had released a second album which was even more successful, selling millions of copies and producing several hit singles. He had toured the world, played sold-out stadiums, and even performed on major national television shows. The name Jesse Turner was now known synonymous with soulful, honest American music. He had moved into a beautiful home in the hills outside Memphis, not as grand as Graceland, but spacious and filled with light. He had a state-of-the-art home studio where he continued to write new songs, his old acoustic guitar. Always close by, He had come a long way from his cramped apartment and his plumbing tools. Despite his fame and success, Jesse remained humble, remembering where he came from. He never forgot the leaky faucet or the man who had seen potential in a struggling plumber. He often thought about Elvis, wondering how he was doing, wanting to express his gratitude in a more personal way. He knew Elvis preferred his privacy, but Jesse felt a deep need to connect, to acknowledge the immense debt he owed. One quiet afternoon, Jesse was at home strumming his guitar when his phone rang. It was Priscilla Parker, Elvis's longtime assistant. "Jesse, it's Priscilla. Elvis would like to know if you'd be willing to come to Graceland for a visit. He's been following your career very closely, and he's incredibly proud of what you've achieved." Jesse's heart swelled. "Priscilla, I'd be honored when... How about tomorrow afternoon? Just a casual visit." He's looking forward to it. "Absolutely, I'll be there." The next day, Jesse drove up the familiar driveway to Graceland, his stomach fluttering with a mix of excitement and emotion. This time, he wasn't carrying a toolbox or an old guitar case. He was carrying a copy of his latest gold record carefully wrapped. Priscilla greeted him at the door, her smile warm and welcoming. "Jesse, it's wonderful to see you again. You've certainly made quite a name for yourself." "Thanks to Elvis," Jesse said simply. She led him to the living room, the same room where he had auditioned for Elvis years ago. Elvis was sitting on the sofa, looking a little older, a little more tired, but his eyes still held that familiar warmth and spark. He stood up as Jesse entered, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "Jesse, son, look at you," Elvis said, opening his arms for a hug. "Look at the star you've become." Jesse hugged him tightly. "It's so good to see you. Thank you for everything." They sat down, and for a while they just talked. Jesse shared stories from his tours, the incredible experiences, the challenges. Elvis listened intently, offering wisdom and advice based on his own legendary career. He spoke of the importance of staying true to oneself, of remembering the fans, and of never taking anything for granted. "You know," Jesse, Elvis said, a thoughtful look on his face, "when I first heard you humming that tune fixing my faucet, I just knew it was like I was looking at a younger version of myself. Someone with the fire but no way to light the fuse." He chuckled softly, and I thought, well, I've been blessed with so much. Maybe it's time to pass a little of that blessing on. Jesse nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "You didn't just pass it on, Elvis, you changed my entire life. I was just a plumber with a pipe dream. You made it real." He reached for the wrapped package he'd brought. "I wanted to give you this. It's a gold record for my latest album. It wouldn't exist without you." Elvis carefully unwrapped the record, his eyes widening as he saw the shining gold disc. He held it in his hands, admiring it, a deep pride showing on his face. "Jesse, this is truly special." "Thank you, son. This means the world to me." "It's the least I could do," Jesse said. "You saw something in me when no one else did. You gave me hope." Elvis placed the record gently on the coffee table. "You earned it, Jesse. I just opened a door. You walked through it and you conquered it. That's all you." He paused, then looked at Jesse with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. "You still keep those plumbing tools around just in case?" Jesse laughed, a full, hearty laugh. "No, Elvis. I finally put the wrench down for good. But I still remember how to fix a leaky faucet, just in case you ever need me again." Elvis chuckled, a warm sound that filled the room. "I'll keep that in mind, King. You never know when a king might need a plumber or another hit song." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the gold record gleaming between them. Plumber had become a star, and the king had helped make it happen. It was a full circle, a beautiful testament to kindness, talent, and the enduring power of dreams. Jesse knew he would never forget the man who saw beyond the work uniform and heard the music in his soul, forever grateful for the extraordinary tip that launched his life.